Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel and actually my first ever YouTube video. I'm Yusin Kirdakov from Bulgaria and I'm 21 years old self-taught software engineer. I'm specializing in front-end development with React and TypeScript, and the idea of this channel and this video today is to actually maybe keep creating such videos and keep posting them with the idea of helping fellow developers or newcomers with common interview questions and stuff like that. And as you know from the video's title, today we are going to cover a real popular and tricky JavaScript interview question, which is related to JavaScript event loop and scope, which is really important. And eventually you're going to get asked such questions which are relevant to those in a JavaScript interview or React interview, and it really makes good impression when you give good explanation on such answers and pleasant answers instead of just those awkward moments of silence. So with that being said, let's start and enjoy the video. Get right into it. Let's move this ugly guy here. That seems like a good spot. So that's actually the code. We are going to be reviewing this code here. And for the idea of the video, I have this downloaded image from the internet of event loop. I highly recommend for you to go and check some dedicated video for event loop. I'll maybe drop some good videos in the description, which I find like a very good and in-depth explanation for JavaScript's event loop. Basically, what we'll see here as behavior will be that JavaScript's event loop always will execute synchronous code first, and will always push asynchronous code to the side, so to say. So, like we know, synchronous code blocks the next line before. Let's say we have some stuff here as code, it will not get executed because for loop is synchronous, and until it finishes, it won't finish the next part of the code. But that's not what happens with asynchronous code. setTimeout is asynchronous, and it will not block next chunks of code or next iterations of the loop before it executes. It's setting callbacks in the callback queue and continue with the iterations and continue to add callbacks here. So let's get started. You are going to be eventually asked this question to and you're going to be expected to actually give the expected result. And by default, if you don't stop and think for a while, it's likely for you to say that the result will be 0, 1, 2. But it's not the case. Why? Because of this var here. We know, or we don't know, but we will know now that var is function scoped or global scoped, which will be a problem here. A huge recommendation: don't use var ever, use let and const. But for the videos, for the sake of the video, we'll cover this up. Let's visualize the, let's just imagine that this var I is sitting at this address in memory. And for each iteration of the loop, like for the first iteration, I would be 0. For the second iteration, I would be 1. And that's actually when the fun part begins. Since var is function scope, those all iterations will refer to the same I. Remember that when we are using a variable, we don't copy its value, we use its reference. So whenever we should show the value, we go to this reference ID or address, or call it whatever you want. I'll just call it memory address for this video. We will be all referring to the same address, which means on the first iteration, its value would be 0, but on the second iteration, it will be 1. And since we are referring to the same I with the same address in memory, guess what? It will affect every other place it is being used. And that's why on the third iteration, when I is already 2, this in memory will be updated. And guess what again? Every other place would be affected too. And when the for loop completes, and this increment is being executed for the last time, this will actually become 3, and every place for every iteration, since the setTimeout callbacks will be loaded here and will be executed after the for loop completes, and by this time I is already 3. All those callbacks will refer to the same I, which will be this for this time of execution 3, so that's why we are going to see 333 as a result. Hopefully you get it. We'll see what happens with let. On the other hand, we have here let instead of var. We have replaced var with let, and we know or we don't know, whatever, we know let that it's block scoped, same as const. So when we execute the same for loop with the same logic basically, but use let instead, the thing that is going to happen is for each iteration, let will create, just imagine let will create a whole new variable or a whole new instance of this variable. So that will cause every iteration and every callback to actually refer to a different variables, which will get us to the actually expected result. Let's see this in action. For this for loop with let, for the first iteration, this I, let's say it will be created at this address and it will hold the value 0. So for the first iteration, I would be 0, right? For the second iteration, and you should see what's the difference here. For the second iteration, another instance of I would be created, but with different address, and its value on the second iteration will be 1. So because those now are two different addresses holding two different values, you see the difference, right? And because of that, we'll have 1 here, but the other places which are referring to I as well, but not the same I, will not get affected. So on the third iteration, we have another instance with another value, but those three are completely not related to one another, so no other place will get affected from those changes, and we get 2. And even at when the for loop completes and this increment is executed for last time, and I would be now 3, we will not get the same result here as here, because we have independent variables with whole different addresses in memory, which are referring to different values. And that's why we actually will get the expected result, which is 0, 1, and 2. And that's pretty much it. I mean, we visually see the difference, and I have tried to visualize and explain with some drawing what is actually happening. I know it could be a little hard to understand at the beginning, I get it, but once you understand how it works, and once you can explain at the interview why this happens, and not just say, oh, I know this, with var it will be 333, with let it would be 0, 1, 2. Why? Because I saw it somewhere? No, you should explain it, you should understand it. I highly recommend it for you. That's the core of JavaScript after all, and that is really making a good impression. So give it a time, try it yourself, maybe rewatch the video, but that's basically it. Here we are referring to the same address, so every change of this address, since they're all referring to the same address, they will always use the same value. But here, for each iteration, we are basically creating new instance with new address, and they're independent from one another. So no matter how much you change this value, they will be independent and hold and refer to different addresses in the first instance. It will refer to this address in the second instance. It will refer to this address. So they're all independent, and that's the expected behavior. Don't ever use var. It's highly not recommended to use var because of those unexpected behaviors, because of this scope. There might be some places you might need var, but in the general case, as a general advice, don't use var. Stick to let and const. So I guess that would be for this video. I really hope that I could be of help. I will maybe continue creating videos if I see you like it, and if I actually like it as well. But I like help and explain stuff to people and to new people which are getting into programming and especially into JavaScript. So I'll be more than happy to help, and let me know in the comments if you're struggling with something. And as a real YouTuber, like, share, subscribe. I will maybe leave some links for my LinkedIn, my website, and etc. in the description. And that was it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and maybe see you next time.